With Dave's Echo out of action, Adam brought his Vitz RS, which went really well in the Drift Track Autocross, for its first outing on an actual racetrack. We had a veritable fleet of Echoes now, sharing a garage with Ricky in the shiny blue facelift model, and Greg in the black 5-door. The Vitz was still wearing the elderly Daihatsu Z1s from the Autocross. By the time we got the Vitz into the infield and unloaded it, I'd missed the slow group session, so I went out with a medium group. Adam's Vitz is much milder than Dave's Echo. Stock except for a limited slip diff, super low springs, and a mostly missing interior. I was a little concerned about being outclassed in this group, and as I started my first flying lap, was blitzed by this cool single-seater thing. I was still feeling out the Vitz's limits. Low-powered front-wheel drives love turn 1. You can carry a lot of speed and rely on the front wheels to keep you pointed in the right direction with your foot hard down. Where it gets tricky is shedding enough speed to make the turn 2, 3, 4 complex work without getting out of shape. Last time I was at Pukekohe, we had the full back straight. This time the chicane known as the bus stop was in place, which suited the Vitz much better than a long 5th gear drag down to the hairpin. The hairpin is the only 2nd gear corner on the track, and the Vitz's synchromesh wasn't that happy about it. I tried to be gentle. Pukekohe's final complex up and over the hill rewards bravery, and often punishes it. I was feeling out the limits of grip, wondering if I'd be able to take it flat, but at this stage lifting a little at turn 10 before the high-speed, somewhat bumpy turn 11 over the crest. Up ahead I could see what looked like a 2K Cup spec Toyota AE 111, so I spent the remainder of the session trying to reel it in. 4th gear wouldn't quite stretch to the end of the back straight. Even on the Z1s, the Vitz is easy to turn in hard enough to provoke oversteer. The next lap I braked a little too late for a repeat performance. Another lap down and I'd gained some ground through the first complex. I took it a bit easier this time and actually managed to come close to the apex. A little wide on the way out of the hairpin. I feathered the throttle a little on the way into the final turn and the 111 drove away from me down the start-finish straight. seeing a Porsche 911 in my mirror, I waved it past. The flashing green signaled the end of the session. I'd recorded a couple of mid 1 minute 30 laps, which without context probably doesn't mean a whole lot. The second column is the delta from Dave's session in his Echo, when he recorded a 124. That was actually really fun. This thing handles well and goes surprisingly well. It feels like it wants to rev more. Like at 6,500 RPM, it still feels like it's got quite a lot in it. And then it just hits the rev limit. I'm going to fifth gear twice every lap, which is a bit friggin' excessive, because it doesn't really pull in fifth, as you'd imagine. How was it? Good, yeah. Wasn't the slowest car out there. For the next session, I returned to the Vitz's natural habitat, the slow group, and once more found myself behind the red 111. I'm not sure if it was the same driver from the medium group. I suspect not. They left plenty of room on the run to the hill, so I nipped through, still buttoning off a little for the final turn. This time I stayed in fifth gear for turn 1, where previously I was going back to fourth. A few moments later, the session would be stopped. Once again, a golfer's had a mechanical.
Bloody golf. Speed challenge group are back on circuit for the remaining 7 minutes.
I was now pretty sure I could hold the throttle flat over the hill and was determined to cut a faster time. Having kept my foot hard down over the hill, I squeezed a whopping 166 km an hour out of the little Vitz that could, recording a PB 130.03. There was traffic ahead, however, and the session was almost over. After being held up out of the bus stop, I got a good run out of the hairpin, and took the AE 101 on the outside of turn 9. The session came to an end with a Lotus blowing past me over the finish line. Greg and Ricky went far behind and swept through on the cooldown. I caught up to a BMW E30 on my first flying lap of the third stint, and with a good run out of Castrol managed to edge past on the back straight. I suspect he lifted. The white station wagons in front of me are a Legacy GT and Audi RS4. A lesson in excessive reliance on sticky pods was taught in no uncertain terms on my way up the hill. But I was on a flyer, so I took the final corner with Adam's cell phone stuffed into the crook of my right arm. That netted me a PB 129.8, but with my lap timer on a break I wouldn't find out about that until later. The next lap would be a second PB on the trot, a 128.65. Trailing the Audi, we ran into some slow traffic in the form of this E46 BMW, which was taking some very odd lines at a very slow pace before absolutely hoofing it down the back straight. This kind of asymmetric competition is my bread and butter, however, and I concentrated on getting a good run out of the hairpin for the climb up the hill. closing in on the turbo Subaru, but wouldn't have the pace to overtake. Meanwhile, there was once again a Porsche 911 GT3 filling my mirrors. I hung left to yield the outside line, but he buttoned off at 10. I very nearly did too, but decided to contest instead, around the outside at the final turn over the hill. He inevitably blew past at 1,000,000 miles an hour on the way to turn 1, but I had defended the honour of the Vitz. The Subaru backed off and we filed past. My best lap was a 1:28.65, and I think the Vitz still has a little left in it, even on those tyres. I have to thank Dave and Adam for letting me drive their funny little hatchbacks, the team at Pukekohe for putting on an awesome track day as usual, and my new hatchback friends Ricky and Greg. I can't wait to get back out for more funny little hatchback skids. Thanks for watching.